over on Oriol's side. And from what I've been told, we're actually going straight into the match. Leads have been decided, ladies and gents. Let's get some hype going. Oriol's going to be going ahead and starting off with their Zacian and the Kyoto. Whilst over on Jonas' side, we're going to be seeing the Calyrex Shadow Rider and that Whimsicott loop.
Yeah, really interesting. We've got 3 restricteds out of a possible 4 here on the battlefield. And Treposword obviously going to get the attack boost up for Oriol's not Incineroar or Kyogre, it's the Zacian. There's so many different Pokemon, I don't even know where to look. But I think the key thing here, if you take a look at Jonas' side of things, you've got the Whimsicott out there, going to be able to go for a Tailwind really quickly off the bat here and apply a lot of offensive pressure with something like that Calyrex Shadow Rider. We also don't know the full move pool on that Pokemon, and sometimes they do run some really obstructive moves to kind of reduce the attack or speed of the opposing Pokemon as well. But I think Jonas needs to be able to use the 2 leads at the moment to set up for Pokemon in the back to come in and then start steamrolling up some KOs. From Oriol's perspective, though, it's going to be a difficult challenge for Jonas to do because Oriol has got such offensive pressure with both restricteds out on the field. That Zacian can deal a huge chunk to both the Whimsicott and the Calyrex Shadow Rider, and Kyogre can utilize the weather really well. But I think when there's the risk of taking a lot of damage from an Astral Barrage, switching out the Kyogre and having it a little bit later on is going to be the strategy to go for. And bringing in the Rillaboom here to apply fake up pressure into that Whimsicott later on, and also maybe if it's carrying the Assault Vest, take a special attack from that Calyrex.
It's definitely going to need it, as we're going to be seeing Whimsicott going and assisting this Calyrex Shadow Rider's Astral Barrage with that helping hand boost, as it's going to deal substantial amount of damage. Wow. 2-hit KOing both that Rillaboom and the Zacian, whilst the Zacian is going to be on the return right now, going for the Behemoth Blade into the Calyrex Shadow Rider, only to reveal a cheeky little Focus Sash. Critical hit, of course, may matter to actually bring it down, but I would expect it not to. But regardless, we do actually have the grass terrain on the field. It will be going ahead and providing residual regeneration on all 3 Pokemon that have been damaged this turn.
Exactly. In the same way we talk about residual damage chipping away at Pokemon, having the grassy terrain to help regain a little bit HP is always helpful. But Jonas is in a difficult situation here. Rillaboom's come in, and as you've mentioned, the grassy terrain's in play. Grassy Glide is going to have some priority in this case. So it doesn't matter if that Whimsicott wants to set up a Tailwind. Rillaboom's in a position where it can easily KO the Calyrex at this point, and the Whimsicott really can't do anything too wild to that Zacian. It's free to go for a Behemoth Blade into that slot. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jonas making some strategic switches here to try and gain the momentum back. Possibly switch out the Calyrex for a Pokemon that's going to be able to come in and utilize Tailwind, or alternatively, if you haven't got a safe switch in, because you're still going to have to take a Grassy Glide, and looking at the Pokemon on Jonas' side, there's not a lot of Pokemon that necessarily want to take that and then utilize the Tailwind that Whimsicott has set up. So we might see the Calyrex sacrificing itself here.
Yeah, may be the case, and from what it seems, it is the case, as Calyrex is down for the count in this game 1, whilst the Behemoth Blade, now freely allowed to do so, goes straight into that into the Whimsicott. Apologies. Of course, it is more than enough to pick up the KO. We did see the Calyrex actually carrying that Focus Sash, so unless there was any sort of a Berry and this Whimsicott was trained and EV'd enough to somehow survive that, there was no other chance from what it seemed. And that, of course, does actually mean the pendulum of momentum has been swung, at least for now, in Oriol Plaza's way. But even though he is 4-2 up right now, Jonas has Tailwind. And he is available to go for his own Dynamax and try to grasp that momentum immediately back.
That's the thing, it's a bit of a catch-22 in the situation. From Oriol's perspective, great, you've got a double KO, really nice player advantage at this point, but Jonas was able to get that Tailwind up and now has the option to bring in 2 Pokemon from the back that can capitalize on that. You've got the Thundurus and you've got the Kyogre. Now, taking a look at the fact you're in Tailwind and there's no weather changing on the opposing side, this Kyogre for Jonas just able to click Water Spout, no problem. It can do that all day long at this point. And then the Thundurus is in a position where it can Dynamax, like you said, we still have that utility. And if it wants to go for something like a Max Airstream, then it can deal with the Rillaboom really nicely. The one thing Kyogre's got to be careful of course, is Rillaboom, until it's been dealt with, can go for those Grassy Glides. So potentially, if you're Jonas, you can go for a Protect and Max Airstream at this point, but at the same time, if you're Oriol, you might be able to call that really easily. You can switch out your Rillaboom at this point. I believe it is the AV variant, so it's not like it can go for a Protect at this point. But again, Oriol might just want to preserve that for a little bit later on in order to deal with the Kyogre.
Yeah, you've got to be a bit cautious right now. You want to try to be able to steer your way past this Tailwind and even potential Max Airstream pressure that we're going to be seeing perhaps from Jonas' side right here, as we do see the Dynamax coming out on play. Naturally, you would assume it to be that Thundurus Incarnate, but no, it's actually the Kyogre. So Jonas actually decided, you know what, I've got enough speed control right now. I want to go for the damage as well as potentially safeguard myself from a raw KO from this Rillaboom's Grassy Glide, which does go in there, and ooh, it does actually confirm that if that Pokemon had not Dynamax, it would have been picking up the KO there. Wow, Wild Charge actually more than enough to pick up the KO on that Zacian, so it was actually put within that very intricate and detailed HP range that it needed to do so, as we're going to be seeing that Max Hailstorm coming out, goes into the Rillaboom, and wow, what a turn of events. We've all of a sudden got a 2 versus 2 scenario, Jonas versus Oriol, going only into turn 3, I believe.
Yeah, lots of destruction coming out in the battlefield here, and I really like this play by Jonas, actually taking a look at kind of the calculations here, knowing that Wild Charge will be able to pick up the KO against that Zacian, and Kyogre, with the bulk that it gets, for, doubling its HP stats, its Dynamax is going to be able to survive out the Grassy Glide there. Could potentially have got a little bit precarious if maybe that Rillaboom had wanted to Dynamax potentially. That would have been a little bit difficult. But now you're in this position where Jonas still has the Tailwind up. We know that the Thundurus obviously running Wild Charge. That's going to be something that's going to apply a lot of pressure into the opposing Kyogre. But this is where things get really interesting. Oriol's brought in the Incineroar. Throwing down an Intimidate against the Kyogre, not a problem, but you throw it down against a defiant Pokemon, you're going to have that stat drop reversed on you, and it's going to be able to get the boost. So now it's looking to be in a really formidable situation. Of course, Incineroar can go for something like the Fake Out and just stop the Thundurus from doing any damage this turn, but there's really not a lot of utility that Oriol has to deal with this Kyogre. It might be wise to Dynamax his own Kyogre in this situation, just so that it's able to take any additional hits.
Yeah, it may seem to be an all-down whale beatdown from what the end game is looking to be, as, like you said, the Fake Out, you would assume it have to try to go into that Thundurus to try to slow down its momentum, as being at +1, even if it's not in Dynamax, it is a definite threat against both this Incineroar and the Kyogre, which we do actually indeed confirm. The Kyogre has opted for the Dynamax, so this may end up in a very interesting situation, or should I say endgame scenario, where a Max Lightning might actually go ahead and get set up, but no, Thundurus actually revealing the Protect, and that is such a good move. Defensive strategy that Jonas has actually decided to embark on, as it makes sure, at least for now, that the Thundurus may survive the following turn, which is not what the Incineroar can do, as it's just been taken out.
Yeah, I really like this play by Jonas, knowing the Fake Out was going into that Thundurus, and from Oriol's perspective, Thundurus is the biggest threat right now. You could go for a Max Geyser into that Thundurus slot, particularly if it's unable to move, and then stop it before it's able to go for the Wild Charge. Oh, that Protect, allowing the Thundurus to be able to survive the Max Geyser, despite it obviously breaking through the Protect a little bit. But this is exactly what Jonas needed in this situation. If he lost his Thundurus in this situation, it was going to be very, very difficult. We would have this just Kyogre against Kyogre match. And when you look at the dwindled HP, Orioles might have been able to stall it out and just become the victor at this stage. But when you've got a Defiant boosted Thundurus, there's not a lot Kyogre can do, even when it's Dynamax. Wild Charge does so much damage, about 80% at this point.
Wow, and of course it's going to be taken out to its own recoil, but remember, Jonas's Tailwind is still in play, which means this Max Lightning goes ahead in such a dramatic fashion and ensures that Jonas Wigel will be progressing on to the finals.
Huge congratulations to Jonas then. We could see the celebration. He really, really wanted to get into this finals, and having had to wait a while to get into this game, I think, all that energy and all that focus has paid off. And commiserations as well to Oriol in that game. It was definitely extremely offensive from both of our players, coming in, dealing out the heavy hits, and Oriol was able to apply phenomenal pressure at the beginning with those restricteds. The key point, though, was getting that double KO and just unfortunately handing over to Jonas the opportunity he needed with that Tailwind to start swinging momentum into his favor.
Yeah, indeed, and I think it just that attack, right, from that Max Kyogre, the Max Geyser, of course, going into a Thundurus's Protect, nearly picking up the KO, evident to how much of a damage boost and, caliber of power there is with that Max Geyser once it's boosted by the Life Orb. So very, very close. If there was a critical hit there, it may have actually turned the other way, but then again, Jonas would have still had this speed control. Electric Terrain would have been set up from Max Lightning, and maybe it would come down to which Kyogre is faster once outside of Tailwind. So it still could have been a very close nail-biting sort of situation, at least for both the trainers there.
I mean, we've been saying it all weekend, and we'll say it again. Speed control is such a critical part of this game, and we've seen it so dominant on one player's side, and they're able to then sweep through the match and just get through to the next round. And I think for those of you at home team building, make sure that you are making sure that you have got speed control options on there, and possibly not just one, have two or three, all the variety to be flexible. But again, A fantastic match from Jonas and Oriol. We will be hopefully grabbing Jonas for a really quick interview if we've got time before the next top 4 match. So don't go anywhere, Pokemon trainers. We'll be back with more action very soon. Welcome back, Pokemon trainers. I am joined by our first finalist here at the Bilbao Special Event 2022, Jonas, who had a short but sweet top 4 game to advance into the finals. How are you feeling? You are representing Germany here in Spain. You're now a finalist.
I'm hyped. Yeah, simple as that.
Oh, I mean, we saw you celebrating at the end. We can see how it really means something to you coming through in this tournament. Talk us through a little bit more in this game. So we noticed that Tailwind and speed control was really critical in this particular match. Going into it, is that something that you realized you had to get set up to get the advantage?
Yes, since he had Tornadoes, I figured, or I knew that he had Prankster Tailwind as well. So my thought going in was, okay, I need to match this.
Yeah.
Because if he gets the speed advantage, he just out damages me before I can damage him. So Whimsicott was pretty much, I was always gonna lead Whimsicott. So next thing was what's the best partner for it, and I chose Calyrex in this game because my thought process was I want to have Thunderous in the back, so it can clean up. This was basically my thought going into this match.
Yeah, and we saw Thunderous definitely do so well at the end, and I think we really liked the turn where you preserved it, took the Max Geyser, and then still had it to kind of counter that Kyogre. Talk us through a little bit more about your team approaching this match. Now, I know in 2017 you were a Porygon Z player. I was a little bit sad not to see it here, but why did you pick these 6 Pokemon instead of Porygon Z?
I mean, I heard there was a Porygon Z in another team, so I guess it's still viable. I didn't acknowledge it for some reason. Yeah, no, I chose this team. It's a hyper offense team. I like to play hyper offense. It allows me to make reads. This is the playstyle that I like. I'm not good at positioning and the long drawn out games. So yeah, and Calyrex, Shadow, and Scarf Kyogre are just 2 Pokemon that are fast and dish out a lot of damage. So those 2, yeah, fit my playstyle the best. And with Whimsicott, Prankster, Tailwind, you're almost always gonna go first. So this was my approach to team building, basically.
Yeah, and you can see that from the stats as well. Obviously, Whimsicott taking that support role, didn't do any damage in this match, but the rest of the damage split quite equally between your other 3 Pokemon that you said were the heavy hitters, and you can see that they certainly contributed damage to that match.
Exactly.
Well, we'll be moving on to the second top 4 match soon, so you'll be able to see who your opponent is going to be. We'll let you go and prepare, but just beforehand, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to, say thank you to at home?
Yes, big shout outs to all, the German community. They helped me yesterday prepare some game plans and just, yeah, gave me some confidence. Big shout outs to the few Germans that are here, Lukas, Domi, especially. And yeah, big shout outs to the Strohkopfbande, which is my friends from back home.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
it.
I mean, I remember you saying yesterday as well, all the German players kept facing each other in the Swiss rounds as well, right?
Yes.
Oh, and you've come out victorious for Team Germany. Well, go and have a rest ahead of the finals. We look forward to seeing you in your match. And Pokemon trainers, don't